everyone, hope you're all having a wonderful day, and today I'm just going to be doing a quick update on my Noxious Ice build because Blizzard thought it was a good idea to fix Icy Alchemist after I made my video and make me look like a complete idiot. So I'm just going to be doing a quick little update on this actual build for you guys because just a few things have changed. I know a lot of people were asking if I could do an update on this now that Icy Alchemist it has been fixed, because it definitely doesn't work like what it did before they fixed it. So having Icy Alchemist in that Noxious Ice build just doesn't work anymore. But do not worry, we haven't had to change too much around. So we have switched out the Vile Heart. The Vile Heart is kind of not that great anymore because of the changes to Bursting Venoms and Icy Alchemist. That's the main reason why people were leaning more towards Vile, and because Barber didn't really work that well with Rogue. Couldn't get vulnerable, couldn't get some CCs, and we also couldn't get like lucky hit procs with Barber. So the Vile and the Creeping Death Heart definitely pulled ahead a little bit, but now that they have fixed Barber, it does work with a lot of Rogue's toolkit, and now it is pretty much meta to just take the Barber. It is the season of the Barber, you guys might as well use it before it gets taken away. So yeah, we have put Barber on our necklace now. This is just going to give us insane AoE damage. And just quickly, because we are taking the Barber now, we are not using Shadow anymore. We have decided to switch to Poison. We are still running Cold Imbue, but we are taking Poison. The only reason for that is because Barber scales off Shadow damage, we can get Consuming Shadows from Barber, so we don't really need Shadow Imbue. The main thing we're losing is making enemies vulnerable, but we can do that with Puncture. We can also do that with Concealment. So Shadow Imbuement kind of just falls off for Rogue now, especially if you are using Barber. If you're not using Barber, you will still have to take Shadow Imbue, but I feel like most people are going to be running Barber now. It's just so insanely strong. So poor old Shadow Imbue now, he's kind of been put in the garbage, at least until Season 1 ends, since we are using Barber Heart and it does scale off Shadow damage. And now for the next heart that is different, I have switched out the critical strike damage one and replaced it with the munitions heart now. This is the one that drops stun grenade. This is really good for frostbitten, because if you're chilling enemies, you can just get free grenades out there, which will then instantly freeze the enemy if you're using frostbitten aspect. Even though we're not using frostbitten aspect, this is still just a really good heart to actually use and play around with, because we are dropping stun grenades, they scale off physical damage, and because we are using Barber, we just want to try and build up as much damage as possible on the target, so then they can go kaboom and blow up all the enemies and do crazy big crits. Now, of course, we had Icy Alchemist on our sword. We have taken that off and replaced it with Edge Masters now. I feel like it's just the best option here, since now that we're using Barber, we're able to stay at full energy nearly all the time thanks to Consuming Shadows and Barber scaling off shadow damage. So we can kind of get that 20% damage increase pretty much all the time. I just felt like this was the easiest switch out to do, just to give us more damage increase. What could go wrong with that? I will do another max roll build planner for you guys. I will leave that link in the description below. Go and check it out. It will have all this information on there for you, so you can just go ahead and put that build together. Now this is just an update video, so I'm not going to be going over the skills or the Paragon board again. That will all be on that max roll build planner in the description below. I would like to throw some ideas your way just for some interesting things you guys can play around with and test out. I've always used Frost Feeder with a lot of my builds when I'm using the Frostbitten aspect or whatever. I feel like Frost Feeder is just really good because when we're using Penitent Greaves, we're basically always going to be getting this 110% extra damage to chilled enemies. Any enemy in front of us going to be chilled with the Penitent Greaves. We get this damage increase instantly, and it's good to have the 20% increased chill effect as well. Now again, this is going to work really well with our Noxious Ice aspect. And also because we're using Cold Imbue and the Penitent Greaves, we're just going to get a lot more chill effect out there, and therefore we're going to be able to freeze enemies a little bit quicker. There is another option you guys can try, and that is the Canny Glyph. Now what this glyph does is it's going to increase all our non-physical damage. That's basically all elements, so just anything that's not physical damage is going to be all elements in the game. Bleed, fire, frost, lightning. All that stuff comes under non-physical damage. So since the Barber scales off shadow damage, it's hitting enemies with non-physical damage. Canny definitely does increase this, and then the bonus is really nice to have as well. Non-physical damage increases all the non-physical damage an enemy takes from you by 1% times up to 10% time for 15 seconds. So this is really good. The more multiple explosions you get, the last guy that does explode will explode for a little bit more because of the bonus that the Canny Glyph does give us. So this is something else you guys can play around with. I really don't know what I like better. Obviously, Frost Feeder is a little bit better because like I said, the extra chill effect works a little bit it's just more consistent with Noxious Ice and our Cold Immune to freeze enemies, and that way when we're freezing enemies, we do a lot more damage. Candy Glyph is obviously going to make all your Barber explosions a lot stronger, and I feel like that's just more consistent when you're running through enemies to enemies, because obviously with Frost Feeder, we're not freezing enemies all the time, but when we do get an enemy frozen, the damage seems to be a little bit better than when I just use Canny. But when you're using Canny, just running through mobs is a lot faster because the Barber is just initially doing more damage. So like I said, it's very hard to choose which one I like to use. They're both nearly the same. It's like, do you want more damage at the start or do you want more damage when you start freezing enemies? That's really all you have to decide between. Now, another thing I would like to note as well, if you are anyone that wants to try and push higher Nightmare dungeons, like anything over 70, momentum is definitely going to be a lot better than close quarter combats, especially if you're someone that doesn't want to continuously dance around with your health pot. But if you are just trying to farm or just trying to speed farm any dungeon, close quarter combat is going to be a lot better because we're just going to get that extra 20% attack speed, and we're also going to get 30% times increased damage to crowd control enemies, and we're doing that all the time. So if you are someone that is interested in trying to push higher Nightmare dungeons, to trying to test yourself, momentum is going to be the way to go for just about any rogue build. But if you want a high risk reward kind of style of play, or you just want to speed farm a lot of like tier 50s or tier 60s, like close quarter combat is definitely going to be the way to go. Alright guys, so that's basically it for this quick little update video. Appreciate all the love and support as always, and until next time, stay safe, peace out.